דוקטור יאיר שפירא, ניני ספיץ'.
פה זה האור? Okay, so my name is Yair Shapira. In the last 18 years, as you can see, I spent as an executive in some successful startups, and I hold a PhD in biomedical engineering, and I'm a father. And my son, my oldest son, suffers from a condition. He's now 17 years old. He suffers from a condition that is shared by 1% of the population, and this condition challenges him and the 1% socially, personally, and in his employment. He stutters, מגמגם בעברית. Stuttering means that it's very hard for people who stutter to control their speech. And that's why we invented Nini Speech. Nini Speech empowers people who stutter, it brings them control, and it helps them to overcome their stutter forever. Most people who stutter go to speech therapists, and in the therapy, they speak fluently. By the way, they can even speak fluently when they're alone. But 84% fail to implement the therapeutic practice and the fluency in their day-to-day life, and they usually remain silent. Let me prove it to you. This is how Niv speaks, Niv is my son, in the therapy, or when I beg him to speak fluently. Up.
שלושה ילדים גייסתי לצה"ל, למסור את ילדיך.
But the way he usually speaks is this.
שלושה ילדים גייסתי לצה"ל, למסור את ילדיך.
As you can imagine, the failure to implement speech fluency in the day-to-day life creates a lot of frustration. The 16% that do succeed to overcome their stuttering practice enough for 6 to 12 months. They practice their speech fluency until they just lose their stutter. Success brings to success. But the other side is that failure brings to frustration and to hopelessness. You may not know, but people who stutter are not fully aware of their stutter. They are in kind of a blackout. Even their therapists are not aware that they stutter because in the clinic nobody stutters, the same way you don't eat a cake in your dietitian's office. And Nini Speech provides feedback based on a unique technology that detects stuttering in real time. It stops the stuttering with real-time feedback. It provides progress report that brings awareness and motivation. And for the first time, the therapist knows what's going on out of the clinic. I got the hint. It doesn't only have a social impact, it's also a very good business. As you can see, if you have questions, I'll answer. We are entering a proof of concept with a few clinics, 2 clinics in Israel, 1 big clinic in the US, and a very large rehabilitation center for people who stutter in China in April. We have a very nice group. With me are Dr. Yoav Meidan sitting here, who is a very well-known expert in speech processing, former CTO of Insightec, and Ofer Amir, who is probably the #1 speech therapist in Israel, who heads the Tel Aviv University School for Speech Disorders. Thank you. Judges. Any questions?
So again, where are you with the business?
So we are going to make business by, of course, providing this service. People who stutter pay about $100 per meeting, per weekly meeting to the speech therapist. That's $450 per month. We are going to ask them to buy a subscription fee of $100. That reflects 25% additional service fee, quite justified in order to skip out of the 85% failure. In places where there are no therapists, like in China, for example, we can actually provide remote and self-healing to people who stutter. Any other questions?
Are there other startups in this domain?
Not many. It's actually a very old-fashioned domain. Not many digital solutions for people who stutter, and none that are actually recommended by speech therapists.
So this is a product provided to the starting person for a certain period of time, and then once he heals, he gives it up.
Yeah, they are supposed to use it for 6 to 12 months until they heal, paying a monthly subscription of $100, probably through the therapist or directly if it's without a therapist.
So the technology basically understand when they stutter, give them feedback, and that's supposed to increase their confidence or potentially also makes them stop.
So one of the ways that therapists tell the parents and themselves to stop stuttering is called a timeout. When a person stutters, he can say "Abba" for 10 seconds. You'll ask him, "How long did you were you stuck?" And he'll say, "I don't know, half a second or so," because he's not aware of his stutter. The only way for him to get out of his stutter is an external, non-audio interception, stimulus, and people use it. They tell the parents to agree on a mark, for example, to mark that he's now stuttering. As you can imagine, when I do it to my son, I can do it once or twice. In the third time, he slaps me, right? Daddy, stop. It's embarrassing for him, it disturbs him, but when he gets a vibration, a small vibration, he will immediately stop. He does it. And also remember that it's very difficult to use the therapeutic techniques. You need to be very focused in order to use it. But you have no clue what's your progress. Sometimes I ask therapists, even the therapists themselves, how do you know if the guy is improved in the last 3 months? He spent $100 per week, he's here 3 months, has he improved? And the therapist will say, of course he improved. He paid $1,200, right? And I ask him, how do you know that? And that's the only way he knows it. There are no metrics. There is no way to objectively measure it, and so on. And we are the only ones who can do it today. Therapists tell me that it's usually teenagers coming to them. They come with their mother, and the therapist asks the teenager, how was your week? And the guy said, I practiced the whole week. I spoke perfectly. And the mother sweats, what do you mean you spoke perfectly? In the good case, you stuttered. In the bad case, you just didn't speak at all. So they are not aware of the stutter. They need to just think of going through a diet without scales or running without a stopwatch. And that's the case now with stuttering.
Is there a technology barrier?
Yoav, do you want to answer that? Is there a technology barrier? How many nights did you lose developing? It's very difficult. It's very difficult to detect stuttering. It's very difficult to detect stuttering. When I come up with the idea, I myself, my PhD is in speech processing, before my son was born, right? It's in '96. And I tried to solve the problem myself. I went to many experts, none could. I studied the whole literature, there is no good solution. And I came to Yoav, and Yoav asked me a good question. He told me, if you take a phone from the 70s, where you can hardly hear the person, you don't know what he says, you don't even know what language he speaks, can you detect his stuttering? And we tried it, and the answer is yes. And he told me, so why are you looking at what that person says? Why when someone says, ani or you're trying to transcribe it to lamed, lamed, lamed? Listen to the music. The stutter is not in the speech, it's in the silence. It's in the music, it's in the tempo. Right? And that's what we are looking at. It's a very different approach than all the speech processing algorithms that are there today. Thank you.